Hello everyone! I am working on paying consigners today, and that means looking back at what sold on eBay last month, because a few of those items came from people who asked me to sell them for them, and wow, are they going to be happy, because we had some really wonderful items. We put these things on eBay in a flight of 20 every month so that we can do a deeper dive and help our members and our viewers understand more about the wonderful things that are out there. We always try to pick things that are a little bit unusual or have a good story. Let's see how they did. We're starting to really build up a collector following who keep coming back to us. And if you're selling online, that's a really important thing to do. I have the benefit of social media to help me with that, but even if you're just starting out on your own, keep track of your customers, send them emails, make them your customers, keep going back to them with things that they like, and you will build an audience. The first item that we're reviewing is this. It was the 1930 Chevrolet plate celebrating their 18th year in business. 18 years is hardly an anniversary most companies would celebrate, but in the Depression, if you were still around, you celebrated every birthday. And this was the middle of the Depression. It's got the old Chevy bow tie logo, and it went to a car buff. It sold for $22.50 on 2 bids. The Goofus glass lamp went to a collector who I knew really liked Goofus glass, and I probably should have just offered it to this gentleman directly, but I'm so glad that he ended up with it. And what he said was unusual to him, which is what I thought was true as well, is that the chimney lamp was painted. They usually are not decorated, and so that's what made this one a little bit special. He said he had several variants of this in his collection, but he hadn't had this one with the paint. So I was really glad it went to the right person. It went for $50.99 on 12 bids, and that's a pretty good price for your typical 1890s to 1910s miniature oil lamp these days, unless it's a really unusual type of glass or that sort of thing. Goofus glass often wore off, and so a lot of people haven't seen pieces as pretty as this because they're used to seeing it missing half the paint. I've never seen a purple cow until now, and now one of our fans has a purple cow in her collection. I went to the show in Spokane right after this, and the fellow had the purple bull and a calf. So now I have 2 more pieces I need to find for this collector. The calf is really cute. It's about this big. And the bull, of course, has all the great horns, and they all have these very interesting eyes that are sort of half open, very sleepy looking. I just think they're the cutest things. Brayton Laguna made these in the late 1930s, and they were just a real hit at the time. It all derives from a poem written in the 1890s, but lately purple cow has meant something in the marketing world, like you need a purple cow, you need something really distinctive that no one has seen before to get attention. I think this guy got attention. This definitely got attention. I knew that this was an unusual piece. I was excited to bring it to the market, but wow, it really did well. It sold for $510 on 6 bids, and that's because this is the difficult to find version. You see the missions there. It's the San Gabriel and El Carmel mission. We usually see the one with Santa Barbara on it, and usually we don't see them in the claywood decoration, which is this buff unfinished with the brown red glaze. Usually we see them in some sort of a green color. So all of that put together, the condition was really good, and there's the bottom of it. Does not say Weller, you just have to know this is a Weller piece, but these collectors obviously did. 6 bids on this, and the final couple of bids were really, really frantic and popped it up to this big number, but I thought it was a well-deserved number for a really, really unusual, hard-to-find piece of pottery. So it's living in California again after spending many years in Florida. This cute little guy did better than I imagined it would. I thought that the Pigeon forged stuff was really neat. I was inspired in part to get this because we were shopping at one of the antique malls in Ohio. We were shopping with Jocelyn from Crazy Lamp Lady and Kate from Follow That Bug Vintage, and Jocelyn picked up a piece called Pigeon River Pottery that looks very similar, and we've discovered since that that is a continuation by people who used to work or had connections to Pigeon Forge. They've started their own ceramics because Pigeon Forge ended their production in 1999. So these pieces are out of production. This one does have the Pigeon Forge signature, as you can see there. and it's just cute as can be. And so it went for $96 on 21 bids. I knew the animals were hard to find. I didn't realize this animal could be that good. So that was a really fun find for me and for the collector who got it. The pink Bird of Hope paperweight. I know the pink are harder to find. I know that the bluebirds of happiness are very popular right now. This went for $59 on 21 bids. I was very, very pleased with this. Terra Studios is not making these anymore. They made 8 million birds of happiness, the bluebirds in various forms. They made a lot less of the red, the yellow, and the pink, and so they're sought after, as we can see. But Terra Studios decided that because of all of the fossil fuels used in glass blowing, that they were going to turn their attention to other forms of art. And so they are still there. They have a wonderful 6-acre complex. You can travel around and see all sorts of wonderful artwork, but no more glass blowing. The Charlie Hebdo, this was a sad but poignant reminder of the strife that has happened over the years between the publishing world and people who don't like what publishers have to say. This sold for $21.50 on 3 bids, and it was one of 5 items that went to one customer who really is interested in geopolitical events and the things that are reminders of the past that maybe isn't so pretty, but is very important for us to remember so that we learn something from it and not repeat. And so this went in a package with several other items that we'll show you shortly. This little guy is just so great. Alligator advertising paperweight letter opener, and he'd been used, and he had great patina and just was worn in just the right spot to have a really cool look. This is from the arts and crafts era around 1910, and it went for $42.50 on 17 bids. They're not easy to find, and so I thought that was a good price and a fair price for a serious collector. That collector also got these. These are from the Civil War, and again, he has a penchant for things that reflect periods of time that were full of strife, but we're supposed to learn something for those things so that we can live in a more peaceful world now. There were 3 in this batch. The condition wasn't perfect, but they're just more interesting than anything. These are called covers. Covers are essentially envelopes with something printed on them, and these covers for your letters had anti-Southern sympathies on here. Good news for traitors. The pill that is actually a bomb to cure the rebellion. And then if you look at the lower left, you see what is supposed to be a representation of Jefferson Davis in what looks like a fireman's hat. But if you turn your head sideways and look at it this way, you see that it turns into a donkey. So not a very flattering depiction of Jeff Davis. These went for $31 on 7 bids. And again, went to the same customer who bought a lot of this sort of thing for his military and war memorabilia collection, including this piece, which went for $52 on 11 bids. There is a lot of interest in this sort of work and these sort of wares. This is trench art. This is from Verdun. This was from the German side of the line. The line never really moved far either way in Verdun. It was a horrible, horrible battle, possibly the most deadly single battle siege in the history of war. Hundreds of thousands of casualties, just a terrible thing. At some point, you try to figure out how to live peacefully, and Germany and France have lived peacefully next to each other now for 80 years. The Matchbox Lotus, I got such a kick out of seeing this sell. It went for $33 on 3 bids, which is a fair price. I figured it was worth between $25 and $35, and it's in great condition. I remember having this as a kid. It made me very happy to find it, and in such great condition in the box again. These did well, and I wasn't surprised because I figured that this was an assortment that was a little different than anything anyone had ever seen, and that there must be collectors for this. And sure enough, this went back to Anchorage. This went to a collector in Anchorage who was fascinated with the pictures of the 1964 Alaska earthquake as taken by somebody who had a Brownie camera and just walked around and took pictures, and had them developed apparently at Max Photo, which you see the cover picture there says business as usual, more or less. Alaskan curio shop falling below the street grade. That's a fairly famous scene. I've seen that from other people. You see the end of the J.C. Penney's building is gone. Thankfully, the Alaska earthquake took place when Anchorage was a lot smaller, and even though 100+ people were killed, it led to a much improved level of building standards. And so hopefully, if there is a repeat of this someday, people will be much better prepared. There's the original envelope it came from, talking about how it was 9.2 magnitude with 125 people killed. I think the final count was 131. It was a terrible catastrophe. This is really fun. Sergei Nekrasov. I really like enameling. A friend of mine in Florida really likes enameling, but she did not get this. This went for $43 on 15 bids. People in Florida and in Connecticut, where Sergei had his original studio, seem to be the biggest pockets of collectors because they're more likely to encounter this name. And it's really good quality. You can see the name on the back here. So you will see these pieces around from time to time in other parts of the country. But those are the places that Sergei and his family made the most. It has the green glaze, and then you notice the white enameling in the bottom, and that was a trademark of theirs. The white enameling is the way it's supposed to be. That's not worn. That is how it was made. And the people who collect know that. And the people who got this nice little sauce dish were very pleased with that. I'm always really excited when someone who watches the channel gets into these things and sees something that they really like, because I can't be everywhere and I don't do shows everywhere in the country. And so this is a way for different people all over the place to share the joy and share in some of these really cool things that we find along the way. If you are not a member, you're not getting early access to this video. We do roll it out to everyone eventually. But if you want to have first dibs on these things, please go to the membership links below the dash lines in the description of any video, and you can click that link and find out more about the different membership levels and the perks that go with them. The Roseville Raymore, this was the last item to get a bid. It got a bid just before it closed. It got 2 bids actually, went for $127.50. Now, granted, there was a time that this might have sold closer to $200, but by the time you put shipping in, it wasn't as much as it said. We had some problems again with shipping with eBay this time. We do these flights every month as an early access bonus video for our members because they contribute extra in order to get to see these items lists first. And then after they've been on a few days, we open it up to everybody, and nobody bid on this piece because the shipping cost that eBay is showing is $57.40. In reality, it cost half of that to ship it. I don't know what is going on with eBay. Instead of putting the range and letting people do the calculated shipping, they're just putting in the high shipping on some of these items. And I got several people sending notes about this and one other piece that sold saying, is the shipping really that high, before they were able to bid? And I had to ask them to send me their information. I calculated their shipping and said, no, it's going to be $20 less than this. And they were able to bid and buy these items. So this all happened at the last minute with this. I really wish that eBay's calculated shipping was working a little bit better. The Bestwick Lion did very well. It went for $64 on 15 bids. I just really like the realism of the Bestwick pieces, or Beswick, as a lot of the people who worked at the factory called it in England. And the proportions are just really good. They get the details. You can even see the ribs in the back where nobody would look. This is why their animals were considered better quality than most of the competition in that time, and they made a real market in doing things that were game animals as well as animals of the field and pets, and eventually the Beatrix Potter line came from them. This was so much fun. Clarice Cliff is such a fantastic designer. It's so hard to find her stuff, especially in good shape. And this circle tree ended up doing really well. $280 on 25 bids. It's the first time I've ever had a piece of Clarice Cliff to bring to market. And I'm so pleased that I was able to do it online. When I pick these items to go online, sometimes it's because it has a good story. Because again, this is all about the members and the viewers and helping people know more about interesting things that maybe they haven't encountered before. But of course, I also try to pick things I think might sell for a good amount of money that might need a broader exposure than I get from my local market or at shows that I do. And this certainly fit that bill. It went for $280 on 25 bids. There is the circle tree on the back. There is the bizarre signature and various other signatures of Clarice Cliff. A very, very modern woman for her time, not just in her designs, but in her lifestyle. She was definitely a trendsetter. This piece was the other one where the shipping was the shipping estimate was a real deterrent to people bidding at first, because they're looking at a bowl that is probably worth $45 or $50 in a lovely color of depression pink that is coming back into style. We saw a bunch of it sell at the Spokane show this weekend, so it's not just my imagination, it is starting to move. But this piece was big, and it was kind of heavy, and it had to eventually go all the way to Georgia. The shipping quoted was $50.55. In reality, I was able to send this for $30 less. And one thing I will tell you, if you were an eBay bidder, a lot of people just automatically pick USPS shipping. If you go through and scroll through, you may find a much better deal using a different carrier. UPS is sometimes a better deal on bigger and heavier objects. Sometimes even FedEx is a better deal. So do compare, because things that you would like to have that you're seeing outrageous shipping through one source, sometimes UPS is way more than the post office. Sometimes it's the other way around. So don't just assume that there's one best way and it always should be shipped that way. If you give the seller a little bit of flexibility, they may be able to get you a better deal overall. I was able to explain that to a couple of people who wanted to bid, and one of them ended up with it at $21.50 plus about $20, $25 somewhere in there for shipping, which was much more realistic, and the total that they paid was in line with the value of the piece. And then the last item, I was so happy with this. I love this piece. I was tempted to keep this piece, but I let it out on the market and it sold for $83 on 22 bids. Pilgrim Glass really is bound to pick up with collectors and get its due. The early designs were all by the Moretti brothers, and they were very talented and had all this background in Italy, had worked for Seguso and other companies before they came to the States. They had another branch of the family who stayed in Italy and was well known there for their glass work. Look at the wonderful face on this guy. There's the Pilgrim Glass logo. And there he is facing the other way. Just such a great, fun, colorful piece. And I was really excited to see this go. It ended up shipping for about $15 because this is a heavy little piece of glass and we wanted to get it there. But just a wonderful, beautiful color. And I was so excited to see somebody get a hold of this. Thank you to everybody who was interested in this stuff enough to watch the videos. Thank you very much to the people who were really into this stuff and bought it and put it in their collections. We are so glad to bring these things to you. We are just so appreciative of everybody who supports the channel. Just the fact that you watch and leave a comment and let YouTube know that you are interested in the kind of content that we're providing. So thank you all very much for that. Look for another flight of 20 items coming on eBay. And if you are a level 2 or 3 member, you'll be getting notice of your early access to that bonus video very soon.
If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.